Welcome to Data Biome channel as part of Fabric series 2026. Today we are going to explore webhook activity in pipeline. First we will understand what is webhook, how webhook architecture is different from a polling architecture, and then we will implement the webhook activity in a Fabric pipeline, and we are going to use a logic app to understand it better. So let's first understand what is webhook architecture. Now first understand what is webhook architecture. Webhook architecture is an event-driven, push-based mechanism when an application let the other application know with the help of a callback URI that some particular event has happened. And when the event happens, obviously it will pass some event-related data, which the other application is interested. Webhook architecture can be commonly seen across various architecture like serverless architecture, event-driven architecture, microservices architecture, and even client server-based architecture. So it's very popular. Let's see the difference between the polling architecture and the webhook architecture. So we are going to understand the difference between the polling and the webhook in a client server architecture. But remember, it's applicable in various other architecture as I previously mentioned. So there is a client and a server. Now in a polling architecture, the client, it can be a browser running on the client machine, will keep on polling with the help of APIs at certain frequency. It can be 10 minutes, 1 hour, every hour, one or twice in a day. It depends. One thing important to observe is there will be multiple API calls to the server machine and it inquired about maybe its status or some workflows execution is happening. It just want to know whether workflow had completed. It can be anything, but it's keep on sending API request at certain frequency to the server machine. This seems to be inefficient. Why? The client is sending multiple API requests. Now, how the webhook architecture is different? In a webhook architecture, the client will first register with a callback URI for certain events with the server or any other application you can say. And then when a certain event happen, then the server will invoke a HTTP post action on callback URI and send some data which client interested. So the good thing about this architecture is the client need not poll every time sending multiple API requests, but the client will come to know whenever that particular event happen by the HTTP post action. Now, whether polling better or the webhook better, it really depends on the use case. Why? Because in webhook architecture, there is a security aspect also, since you are publicly exposing the callback URI. And also, if client or server machine go off, then there are further complications which might arise in webhook architecture. So there are a lot of things regarding retry mechanism and all things come into picture. But on a higher level, webhook architecture is being used whenever we don't have a highly confidential data. And one example can be feedback data. So you want to know certain feedback for some applicants. Maybe someone is going for a property viewing and the lettings company or the agent company wants to know how the property looks like, what kind of feedback they can get from the applicant so that they can target the right applicant and they can also identify the property issues. So in such architecture, like when I have implemented one architecture in the past where we integrated a third party agent's feedback using a webhook and I use logic app a gateway. Okay, so hope that makes sense. You have understood how the polling is different from webhook. Let's now go to Fabric UI. We are inside shortcuts workspace. Let's create a new item. We are going to create a pipeline item first. Let's give a name. Click on create. Now you need to include the webhook activity. Go to activities. Click on three dots and search for webhook. Webhook activity has been added to the canvas now. Let's go to settings first and we are going to create a new connection. Click on this arrow. You need to select browse all. If there is a new connection, select web v2. Here we need to provide a base URL. Token audience URI is optional and that can be used when you want to get some data from the keyboard, maybe a secret. Let's create a logic app. Go to logic apps and click on create. We are going to select multi-tenant option. Click on select. Give a name, so we'll call it Fabric Webhook. Okay, let's review and create this logic app. Click on create. Go to resource. Alright, so what we are going to do, let's go to logic app designer. First, a trigger needs to be added. Let's select request when an HTTP request is received. Let's allow only post method. We will leave the request body JSON schema as blank. Now, when we save this workflow, it will create an URL as it's mentioned here. URL will be generated after save. But one key thing I want to mention here is if you change this name later on, then the URL also change. So if you want to give a different name, suppose I want to say receipt from Fabric pipeline, then you make the change in the beginning only. Otherwise, if you change later, the URL also will change and you will see failures. Let's send a initial response 202. Now why we are sending it? In a Webhook architecture, there is a callback URI which needs to be registered. When an application interact with the other application, then first the other application needs to be active and it should reply within some minutes. The default time is 1 minute. So if our webhook activity in this case, which we are going to use, it's sending a request to this logic app, treat it like a different application, then first it should receive the response as most of the time accepted. You can even send 200, but the recommendation is to use accepted. Does it make more sense? So 202 status code should be received to the webhook activity. This is entirely different from callback URI HTTP post action, which we are going to build shortly. And that time, if you go to the, okay, let's first enable connection, then I will show you where we will see the timeout settings. Don't worry if you don't get it, we'll come back later. So what we are going to do, let's first save it. We are going to change this logic app for callback URI later. But first, let's save it. Okay. So if you click again, you can see a HTTP URL. Copy that. Go to the fabric and give this base URL here. So it's going to create a new connection. You can change the connection name if you want. So I will say testing webhook. We are not going to use authentication kind in this case. As I already mentioned, there is a signature which is being passed at the end, and I can show you that in the, yeah, sp equal to. So that's why it's secure. Let's click on connect. Right, so connection has been configured. Now there is no relative URL which we need to be passed in this case, but yeah, you can use it in case you want to pass some relative URL for some custom webhook. Let's configure the header. We will say content type application JSON, and let's in the body pass some data. So we will say source, and this can be anything in the real world. Okay, some data. So we will call fabric. It should be a JSON. Now here you notice there is a timeout setting. This timeout setting is for fabric activity when the callback URI is not received. Fabric pipeline will pass this callback URI together with your data, and I will show you shortly. So along with source fabric key value pair, it will attach the callback URI in this case. And that you will see in logic app, because we are going to trigger logic app. We have created a new connection for the logic app. That's why we have used the URL in the connection. Here, edit. If you click on edit, this connection is for logic app. So I repeat, a callback URI. URI is nothing but Uniform Resource Identifier. It will be sent along with the source fabric key value parameter. And this timeout is for activity timeout. You can change it. Default is 10. There is some options under advanced which you can explore further, and this is for disabling the certificate validation, and then there is a report status on callback. So you want to report status or not, you can turn it on if you like. Right, so let's just save it. First validate. So in ADF Azure Data Factory or Fabric pipeline, which is basically same as ADF interface, always validate first. So validation output, success. Let's save it. Ensure logic app is up and running. Let's go to overview and check here. So disable, when you see disable, it means it's enabled. Let's trigger now. Click on. But first, what we are going to do, we are going to change this time because I want to show you when I trigger the logic app in this case, since we are not doing any HTTP post action on the callback URI, this will keep on waiting for 10 minutes. But if we change it, it will fail with timeout for 1 minute. So I have changed it and save it again. Let's run now. You will notice run instance within few seconds, and it's in progress now. Let's go to logic app and refresh it. Succeeded. But notice the pipeline will keep on running for 1 minute. Why? Because timeout is 1 minute. And the reason is we have not sent the HTTP post on the callback URI. So it will keep on waiting and it will fail with timeout because we have given it 1 minute. Okay, in the meantime, we have failed. Let's see what is the error. The pipeline and failed due to an activity failure. Please check the activity table. Okay, so we are going to timeout. Okay, now let's see the callback URI being passed. So I already mentioned when you run it, we are passing some data in the body source fabric, but along with that a callback URI will be passed by the webhook activity of this pipeline. Let's go to logic app and let me show you that. Here we go. So this is the body and you can see the callback URI being passed. Great. So how we will make it work? We are going to send, first of all we are going to edit this. So to resource and added the logic gap. You need to select HTTP and we need to give URI. Now in this case, the URI will be the callback URI. So let's select the dynamic. We will select the expression one because one difference which you will notice while working on logic app is if you select the dynamic option, you will see only certain data. But if you go and click on expression and under the dynamic content, you will see all the data. So one tip, if you're working on logic app, always use expression and then you can obviously choose the dynamic content. Function, you can use any function, and dynamic content, you can use the dynamic content of the previous steps. So we are going to, let's see, click on body and call back URI. So we will just click on add, method will be post, and in the header give content type as application JSON, and in the body we will pass some kind of event data. You can say it's a event name, maybe feedback received, and let's say data something. This can be again a JSON. Most of the time it's JSON actually in the real world, but we will just say properties. Nice. Great. Okay, so it's saying enter a valid JSON. It's saying enter a valid JSON. Okay, comma was missing. Click on save. Right. So we have just added the callback URI HTTP post action. Let's run the pipeline now. Click on run. We notice that there are lots of viewers who didn't like and subscribe the channel. If you subscribe the channel, that will help us in growing further. Okay, run succeeded. Notice there is an input, timeout 1 minute, and let's see the output. So we get the data back. Property is nice. Event name is feedback dot received. Let's go to the logic gap. Click on refresh. There is a new run 1222, and we can see URI is passed and 200. If you can add the further functionality in this logic app, you can add error functionality, you can conditional logic, you can do a lot of things. In the current world, the webhooks have become more sophisticated. Some of the companies they are providing subscribe or unsubscribe option, so you can subscribe the webhook or unsubscribe anytime. Even you can pause and resume. There are various other things coming into market, but that's a topic for a separate discussion. Hope you find it useful and understood how to use the webhook activity in a fabric pipeline. Please like and subscribe and take care of your health. Thank you so much.